And welcome to another great episode of Tampa Fishing Outfitters Fishing Report. Captain Jason Prieto in the house. Capt Rick Liles. Big country. Travis is doing something. He's probably arguing with the bait guy right now. But did I say that out loud? Oh, I'm so sorry. I did it already. There's already. God, you know me. I get so anxious. Guys, it's been another good week of fishing. Another week of wind. We actually had some nice days. Captain Rick was working in Georgia a few days, doing a little fishing. I've been doing a lot of fishing. Travis been doing a lot of fishing. It's been good. It's been good, man. The snook fishing's continues to be good. Having to get a little creative. There's a lot of boat pressure. It's typical March. A lot of grouchy captains and gripey captains, but that just goes with March and wind and doubles and all the good stuff that goes with it. Yeah. Actually, I stayed grumpy through tarpon season. Really, yeah. Well, I think you understand my frustration with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, that's something else to be frustrated about. But it's been good fishing, guys. We've been dealing still with some fronts coming down. Today, I fished and I feel like I've taken more waves over the bow of my boat this March than I ever have in 14 years. Throwing the cast net, it's been rough. The fishing's good, and that's typically our March. I'm complaining about it, but it's wind is bad, fishing's great. Get bait is that's the two-headed monster for us. And even average Joe's out there, I mean, if you can get the white bait, you're probably going to catch fish. Red fishing has been patchy for me. You really have to work to get a couple redfish. It ain't like you.
Well, they're not schooling, or at least in our area, there's no big schools for redfish, which we should be starting to maybe see some here. Usually in April we would see that, but if you want to spend the time and put your nose in the bushes, the redfish are there. I had a decent week with redfish, snook, and trout. Didn't fish for redfish that much, but when I did, every time we caught fish.
Yeah, it's my last decent day was when it counted. we caught I caught like 30 reds. I've never caught 30 redfish in a day on a tournament on artificials. Never done it. And I'm saying not 30 small ones. Like these were like.
I was fishing with Eddie Arsenal down in one of the FLWs in Sarasota one year, and we caught that many that were over slot. We never did catch a slot fish on those fish, and we actually left and went farther down Lombard where we knew there was some smaller fish, and picked up. I think I only got one actually, about a 22 incher, just to have something to weigh in.
Oh. Yeah, the overs are heartbreakers.
We had the best fishing day of anybody in the tournament. We just didn't have the best tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, well, tournaments, I tell people, like, oh, well, you guide for a living. That's probably makes it easier. I'm like, well, a little bit, but not as much as you would think, because tournament fishing is polar opposite of guiding. I mean, guiding, you just want to catch fish. You're not targeting a specific size fish or species of fish. At least on my trips, we just go out and throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and that's what you get. So, when you're doing redfish, you were looking for a 27 or closest as that you can to 27. So it does help, because I've been on the water that week, and if you do run across a good school of reds, then you got an advantage. But typically, especially this time of year, the red fishing is not plentiful, so to speak, for me at least in March, and so it's not a huge advantage. What's a huge advantage is going out and scouting for 3 days prior to the tournament. I mean, that's way better than guiding people on a fishing trip by far. So, I don't know. I don't know if guides have that big of an advantage besides fishing every day. But And it seems like in
Rick,
the tournaments,
you got to turn your mic on there, Chief.
Have you been talking the whole time?
Well, I hit the button. It may not have come on.
So the only thing they heard was me.
Well, you did good.
Oh gosh.
You're known as the
We
other
can't
guy.
hear the guy on the
Sorry,
right.
guy.
The guy on the right.
Big fingers, little button. Didn't work.
Speak up a little bit,
Yeah.
Rick.
I'm glad you seen that. Imagine if we went the whole show with just me talking.
That would be a bad
That would be
show.
so
We've had
self-centered.
those shows,
but
but it wasn't because our mics were off.
Da-dum.
Oh.
Whoever notified us, yeah, thank you.
That's funny, man.
But,
That's funny.
you know, the snook fishing, I tell you, it continues to be good. We had to get a little selective on baits and techniques and timing, but it's typical. It's been real good. Trout fishing's been hit or miss. I can go into some spots and get a few spots, and I can go get my trout, but to go on any flat and get trout,
I
like we
hadn't
used to.
really seen, and I tried a couple different spots for some of those flats trout. You know, this is that time of year where some of them bigger solo trout, not the big schools, but
Flat
some of the,
trout, like flat
like
Stanley.
flat. Like
Like
flat.
flat
They look a lot
Stanley?
like flounder, but if you look real close, they're actually not. They're actually
They have two eyes.
they're
on
actually
opposite
flat
sides,
trout.
Both
That's
their
right.
eyes aren't on the same
That's
side.
right. But no, you know, there's some areas where I do a lot of red fishing this time of year, fishing potholes, particularly down like Joe's Island area between the port and Joe's Island, all those patchy potholes in there. And a lot of times you'll get some of those big gator trout, you know, but you won't catch the numbers like you would if you're
Right.
fishing, say, a deep channel or a trough or, you know, something where a lot of trout can get into. And we've been catching some redfish on some of these flats, and I hadn't really got into any of the big trout yet. Normally, like I said, you'll catch some redfish or even some snook, and that 24, 23-inch trout just kind of shows up out of nowhere
Right.
in the chumps, you know, scene, and you end up stinging a good one. But I hadn't quite seen that yet. All the trout that I've been catching have been, you know, some canals, some deeper edges, you know, places where these bigger schools of trout
Right.
have started to gather up, and quite a few trout that we have cleaned are got eggs in them. So these fish are
Absolutely.
definitely in a either a pre-spawn or spawn mode, you know, getting there towards April. So we've released all the big trout that we've been catching. I think we're all probably on the same boat there, as we really don't like to keep any trout over 20 inches, especially this time of year. There's times when it happens, when you get one deep down, and trout's one of those fish where
Man,
you will get one deep
we had
every
a
now and again.
pull up to a spot the other day, and the first cast, 23.5 incher
Down the hatch.
down the hatch, and I told them, I said, and they were staying in a hotel, couldn't cook, you know, didn't have
Right.
no way to cook.
Right.
I said, man, I want to let this fish go, but I'm scared, you know, I don't want
Right.
But my belly's telling me not to.
No,
oh,
I-
I couldn't take it.
I put it in the live well, man. I tried my best to get
Is
that.
it flaking up, the fish?
Oh yeah, she kept coming up.
That's a
She
flat
kept-
trout.
It was a flat trout. Yeah, she kept coming up, belly up. So
Yeah,
I ended
that
up putting her
sucks.
in the cooler. At 23.5 inches too, man. That's
That's a stud. That's a
that
stud.
was. But to your point, when I cleaned her, man, those eggs were ready to go.
Yeah,
I mean, they
just
were.
big
They were.
ol'-
Yeah, they were just ready. But
But the good thing is, and I think all you guys will agree that when you are on these trout, some of these trout areas that we've been fishing, there's pretty good numbers there. Like
Mhm.
they're there. Now we're not beating the ever living snot out of them, but the 3 or 4 places that I've been catching trout.
it's not really the fish you want to do that to anyway.
Right. I
so-
mean, like we've been going in. If you want to catch numbers and you want to get on a good bite, snook is the answer right now,
or mackerel.
or mackerel. The
Because
mackerel
the
started
mackerel
showing
bite-
up.
I haven't done any
off.
mackerel fishing, and mainly because it seems like every time I go out, it's windy.
Sunday
today
and
was
Monday,
pretty
it was
rough.
not windy, and we absolutely gut punched the mackerel in the trout.
Gut punched.
I'm telling you what, it was back to like the especially the mackerel. It was like old times.
Really,
Yeah, yeah.
that's good.
Bat full of chum. Seemed like every
And they're jumping out of
yeah,
the water.
Just
Yeah.
yeah.
I had a guy one time. We were over there in the mackerel spot that we like to fish on the other side, and I started we'd caught a few mackerel and
It's like
caught
the outsider
a
here.
couple ladyfish. You know where it's at too.
Well,
But you don't ever go. You don't ever go over there and fish with us.
man, every now and then though, it's good to get away and do
Yeah,
that
it was.
kind of
It's
stuff.
enjoyable. And we were driving around. Where I was going with this, we were driving around, and the guy goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm looking for mackerel." And he goes, "Well, what are you looking for?" I said, "I'm looking for mackerel."
Yeah.
Like literally looking for mackerel. He goes, "Well, what are you looking for?" I said, "I'm looking for them to jump out of the
Jump, yeah.
water." And not a lot of people know that or have seen it, but when you get around these mackerel and there's a bunch of them and they're fired up
They are jumping.
by themselves, they're out there free jumping
Mm-hmm.
on glass minnows or whitebait or whatever's out there, and a couple different areas. I mean, that's literally how all right, we need to head in that direction because that's where they're at. You
And
know,
what's funny about that is a lot of times there'll be ladyfish with them,
sure,
and mackerel free jump.
That sounds like a
Ladyfish
train wreck
don't.
to me.
right. They're big old-
Ladyfish will jump on the hook, but a mackerel won't.
right.
It's kind of weird. You would think, isn't it? I mean,
They work together. They're like, all right, you jump without the hook, and I'm gonna jump with the hook, so you know that I got a hook in my mouth.
yeah.
That's what they're thinking.
I
But
tell
I'll
you,
jump
never
without-
thought about
I'll
it that
jump
way,
without
did
a
you?
hook, and you don't jump without a hook.
See, that's why we make a good team.
they're all jumpers.
You never thought about that, did you?
I
No.
never have given that thought. No.
See,
He don't think much.
Let me write that down.
But well, anyways, guys, we were just sitting here
Mackerel.
blabbing away, but
and we're gonna talk a little bait today too.
perfect.
But I haven't seen any bait on the flats much at all, and we're counting. We're counting away. for the
literally,
bait.
Danny is counting away. He's the
Dude.
number one counter.
Danny burnt 25 gallons the other day trying to find bait somewhere other than a marker.
Oh man.
And I said, Danny, I got it on 2 throws, and I burnt 2 gallons.
yeah.
And after I said that, I was like, I probably shouldn't have said that because I know that he said it should be there, and he got fixed on it's gonna be there, and I thought it would have been there too, and he had 1 bait.
I know
So
where he
mean,
went. That's
yeah, and that's early spring.
For flats fishing from our side of the bay, he went as far as you can go.
Then he went to the
Yes.
bridge. Then he went to
Oh,
bridge,
Oh, God.
Yeah.
and then he came back after 4 hours and had enough to fish.
Oh, man.
And I said, Danny, that's a long ways not to get 1 bait. You could have did better with this as a sabiki.
Yeah. No kidding.
But we do that at times. We get we want to go try to. If you catch that bait when it first comes in, it's awesome, and then the markers thin out. We kind of need that, honestly. We need some thinning.
Oh, we need the markers to thin out because there's some people getting really frustrated
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Man, you looking at me?
Well, yeah, we look
Ever
at you.
since James Beers got him to get this flat bill hat, he's been acting a little strange. I think it's getting his head.
Well,
But,
if y'all saw Travis's post about the bait boats,
I didn't see
because
it.
we're gonna this is definitely gonna have to be talked about.
Oh, we're gonna talk about it.
Well, what most people don't know is what your real frustration was, because you never actually, you said you did, but in the beginning of all that thread, you never actually give specifics of what was frustrating you at the beginning. Now,
Well,
you say
there
you
was-
did later,
Well,
But
yeah.
and I'll go ahead and then I'm going to let y'all talk, but
I
typically,
didn't think we were gonna go there, but
no,
we're going.
going.
there.
We're going to go there, because people, hey, honestly, people need to
did
know.
I bring
Okay.
it up?
People,
Hey, it's
no,
all good.
No, people need to know. If you're the first boat at the marker, it's your decision of what you do.
Yep.
You can anchor up or you can drift.
So you mark your territory at that point.
But if you're the second boat at the marker and the first guy's drifting,
Rick, are you making
Don't-
Rick is the sheriff, son.
No,
He's
this
making the
is-
rules.
Look, since I've been fishing as a teenager,
First one wins.
It's just kind of been an unsaid way
Rule.
of doing things.
Ethics.
If you get to the marker and there's a boat there that's drifting and throwing, don't you dare anchor up and then hog the marker for a guy that's there setting the tone before you. That's just not what you do. And another thing you do on the flip side of that is, if you get there and there's someone anchored at the marker catching bait, don't drift by and throw in his chum.
Right.
That's those
Oh,
two
you can't
things.
do that?
Those two
Well,
things
that
are
was
common sense.
perfectly
You
fine.
know better.
Well, I mean, listen, I just
Now-
figured I'd just chum for all the other boats.
But now
if they give me
there's-
bait, I'm okay
there's
with
times like the other day you was at the marker, you beat me there, you was on your spot lock, you were chumming, and you told me, hey, if you want to drift through and throw, go ahead. I got it balled up, and I did. But I knew you, and you told me to. I wouldn't do a stranger that way.
Yeah.
That's where the frustration with Travis came, because he was out there catching
Well, I wouldn't
bait.
even say Travis, just in general.
Well,
I'm going to say Travis, because that's what sparked the fire fury on Facebook. Was he drifted by, he caught bait, he was clearing his net, and in the meantime, a bait boat come in, anchored up, and absolutely shut that marker down the way they were set up.
yeah,
That's wrong.
It
that
is.
was that
And
was
it wasn't like he was just going to catch enough bait to go fishing. The guy was trying to catch enough bait to,
For
to
80
service
people.
half of South Shore.
That was
So-
the whole point. And to kind of
There's always been. Let me say this real fast. There's always been, and this goes beyond bait. In my experiences, there's always been this thing of from the crabbers to the mullet guys to the baiters. I've had them say it to me. They run right through my lines, and the guy tells me, the crabber, "Well, I'm working." I looked at him. I called him a few choice names. I said, "What do you think I'm doing?"
Yeah. What?
So at times, I think that the commercial guys think that we're not working when we are working. It's
Does
just
it
a different
matter if
type
you're
of.
working?
It doesn't.
It
but
don't matter if you're a recreational
right.
guy that fishes twice a year.
you
Right.
said it. You said it the best right there. And my point to some of this was, and this sort of went a different direction than what it started off as when the comment was made. So I made a daily post about my fishing trip, and a friend of mine commented back and said something about, "Oh, it was windy today, good job." And I commented back and I said, "Well, yes, it was. I'm just tired of catching bait in 3 to 4 footers. Once I get back country, it's all good. Thumbs up."
Mhm.
Could have left it at that.
Did you
Well,
do a picture with the thumbs up? Or?
It was well the new one, it's like, but so anyway, and
Can't help it.
another guy posted something about you might want to consider 3 scoops for $50 or whatever, and I thought about it for a second, and it stemmed a part of me that I had already dealt with that day, and I made a comment back and said something to the tune of, if I don't have bait,
You ain't got bait.
you don't have bait. And the part of my frustration, the biggest frustration, is bait boats coming in and making my job a lot harder than it has been over the last 2 months. We've been getting bait at these same areas for
The
quite
flip side,
quite a while.
devil's
Now,
advocate, is we're making their job harder too.
100%.
So it goes both ways.
It goes
No,
both
and
ways. Now,
we don't have rights to that marker over them.
You're exactly right. Now, the difference is these guys are flying out there at 5 a.m. They're anchoring up on the marker. They're setting 2 anchors out, getting sideways, and literally, because I have ethics, I'm not going to go in there and throw a net on top of those guys,
Right.
just like what you talked about. So what it boils down to is you either sit and wait for these guys, or you move on, go to another marker and work a little harder and try to get some bait. Or what really, really, really got me was, like you said, that morning that all that went down, I pulled up to a pole, a marker. There was 5 or 6 charter boats on the other 2, and I went to the one that had no boats on it. I had a machine. I went there. I've marked the bait, got off of it, threw one time, got about a quarter net of bait, see where my net went to kind of gauge where I was going, cleared the net. It's blowing 25 mile an hour. You're getting blown off the marker in 3 footers. I clear the net, load the net back up, put the boat in gear and spin back around, and I look, and here he comes. He couldn't get off plane and chuck the anchor any faster than he did and sit right on top of where I just threw my net. Now, did he think I was done? I don't know. Did he think that was right? I don't know.
Well,
But I tell you,
I'm saying all this.
but I
is
tell
to educate.
you, when I pulled back around, and the guy knows I'm a fishing guide. In fact, he seen me out there catching bait when he was struggling to get it. So I spin back around. I kind of threw my hands up. I said, "What's up, man?" I said, "I was trying to get." Well, as soon as I get it, I said, "I tell you what, I'll sell you a scoop." That right there went, ba-boom. Are you serious? You're going to sell me a scoop on the bait that I'm perfectly able to? You just blocked me from getting the
You
bait.
didn't tell me that.
Yeah, that's where the whole
Wow.
when the offer
I
came
wish he'd
through.
have said that to you.
When the offer
Oh
came
my
through,
gosh.
when the offer came through from the other bait boat, I went, and
It stemmed.
it stemmed the whole situation. Now,
And
at the end of the day, guys, at the end of the day, everybody's got free right to be out there fishing. Everybody's got free right to be out there catching bait. And there's one thing that you'll know, and there's guys that watch this show, and I hope they comment that I'm the last guy that's going to pull up and get in an argument with you or run you over or chuck nets beside you. Most of the time, I'm the guy that will throw the net for you and sling it over, and here, man, get it done. You know what I mean? I'm not that guy. But what ends up happening is we've got a job to do just like they do. The difference is I've got to pick a time where I'm going to go pick people up. So time in the morning is a very critical thing. And each day when we decide where we're going to go get bait, how long it's going to possibly take us, and you set the clients up and they're standing at the dock at 8:30, 9 o'clock or whatever.
Why couldn't he have just drifted through and through like you and throw the net like you were doing?
Because he needed a lot more than I did, and he wanted to take that spot and make sure that he locked it down to get enough bait to go sell to his clients, which I understand. But there's a give and a take there. Just like you said, I don't own the marker.
First one there
but
sets the tone,
but
man.
neither does he. And so at the end of the day, a lot of guys jumped in and said bait boats are good, this, that, and the other, and there was conversation back and forth about the whole thing. And, you know, the bait in the upper bay, those guys are using the bait boats. Well, unfortunately, that bait boat is coming to the markers that we're getting bait on, and it's affecting how long it takes me to go catch bait.
Yeah.
So that's where the frustration comes in. Now, am I going to go out there and cuss anybody out and throw rocks and do all that? No.
Ain't worth doing that.
But people just got to kind of understand that it goes both ways. Yeah, he's helping you, but he's hurting me at the same time sort of deal. So the last 3 days, ask Jason, I'm leaving my dock at like 8:30. I'm letting all them people get away. And now I'm not picking my charters up till 10 o'clock because of that, which means my double runs me into dark because I can't.
I have a double, and I'm trying to figure out how to.
And it's really just become a frustration thing, especially when it's some other things that are affecting the way that you would normally run your business.
Well,
and
my take is on. I want to play.
That's what I got to say about it. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
if you read the post, if you go back and read the post, you'll see where I explained myself anyway and the way I feel about it.
My whole point is, for the last 35 years that I've been out there fishing in Tampa Bay, it's always been, if the guy's drifting when you get there, you drift, and if he leaves in and you want to anchor, then anchor.
Right.
And I've done that several times.
Right.
Well, Rick, I agree with both you guys.
Well,
but
I
try
we're saying the same thing.
I try to play the devil's advocate a little bit. You know, the bait guy, I look at that and I go, we got to pick up at 9 o'clock. Well, if he's out there all day, he doesn't get the morning rush of people that want to buy bait. I'm looking at it as a bait guy.
Then he needs to get to the marker before Travis
got
agree. There and put the
I agree.
anchor out.
Now, I'm not saying
that's what they're doing.
Right, but no.
And that's fine.
But I'm not.
And it is.
There's
nothing I can say about it.
I'm not saying that he was right or wrong. I'm just saying from a bait person standpoint. The bait people need to make a living just like we do, and the average Joes don't need to be left behind if they're on a marker. I think that the long story short, what needs to happen is communication. You need to come up to the marker and talk to each other, not just go react and do what you want to do because you think you found the bait. I'm not referring this to you, I'm just saying in general. Because you think you found that bait a month ago doesn't give you the right to throw that first.
No, nobody's
and
saying
and I got frustrated, and I said,
saying
and Rick's like, well, we don't own the marker, and I thought, well, I guess you're right. What aggravates me in the industry is I believe that sometimes people don't go do their homework.
People
and they don't do their homework, and then it affects me. You know, they're running 15 miles to come get bait on the other side of the bay. Dude, listen, there's got to be some bait somewhere up by Gandy that somebody take a half day, drive around with a machine and go find it. But, I mean, and you were right, but my response was, how many times in 14 years have I went to Gandy to get bait?
Right.
Because I find it over here. So
well, I don't even have an issue. I mean, I don't have any issues with the bait thing other than the fact that if someone's there before you, they've set the tone.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, and if you're running late, I'm saying with the communication, maybe if you're in a bind, you got to go. Like this morning, my daughter had an awards ceremony. I'm trying to help Danny, and I'm getting a lot of thread fins, and I just went to a separate marker and threw my butt off, and I needed to be back at my house by like 8:45, and I got there. But you get in a certain situation, maybe Rick doesn't need to pick up to 11. What I'm saying is everybody needs to communicate a little better out there and get along. We're all in the same boat as far as making a living, really. The big picture, and it's just tough because it's the markers have become popular. The secret, not that it was a secret before, it's definitely not a secret now. I think with all the cast net drama that we've got now, bigger nets, sink faster, catch bait, and 55 foot of water, blah, blah, blah. I think it's created this whole white bait deal. Now, I tell you what concerns me. I'm not even worried about getting the bait. It is what it is. And it was brought up at the Florida Guides meeting is, for us, getting bait is half the battle. So I think our fishery, how many people have you talked to, average Joes, can't get bait? They're like, man, I just can't catch bait in the spring.
I don't know anybody. I ain't talked to nobody that's having trouble catching bait.
Well, I'm saying there's still a lot of people can't throw a cast
under
net.
good weather conditions.
Well, I'm saying still a lot of people can't throw a cast net. They don't know the routine. And listen, I'm not saying they don't need to know how to fish. What I'm saying is we're having some issues that are pretty apparent on redfish and trout. And so I got it on mute. So my theory is we're seeing some issues with trout and redfish. Well, if everybody's got bait and they can go buy bait at a bait boat, and everybody's going to go out and catch fish, does that mess our numbers up more? Because that was brought up not by me.
Well, maybe.
It was by a very good source at the Florida Guides, and it was like,
Well, I think there's several. I mean, there's definitely several different, not necessarily issues, but there's consequences to everything, and that's part of what I was kind of talking about, was the fact that yes, there's some things perceived by other people as being good, but I don't feel like a lot of people put themselves on both sides of the ball and look at, okay, this is good for me, but is it bad for something else? And I think sometimes people will just look at it and go, oh, it's good for me, it's working for me, it's working for my business, working for this, that, other, but they may not look at how it may affect somebody else. And you know what? It's like what we talked about.
Rick, put your mic closer.
I'm the kind of person where, yeah, I did voice my opinion on that because somebody came on my page trying to promote their business in a way that I looked a little shady to me, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. So if you're watching, I'm not going to put up with it anymore. But
easy.
I will stand up for myself, and I will stand up for my business and do things the right way. And when people start,
didn't say anything.
I didn't, and I didn't, and if anybody reads that, I hope you read through it. But there's a lot of things changing in our industry right now, and for folks that are trying to make a living being a fishing guide,
it's tough.
There's some things that we all need to get together on and find a way to make it all work. I'm not just talking about bait. I'm not just talking about fish. Ethics, respect. There's a lot going on right now, and if we don't get a handle on it, it may get out of control.
Well, I think that's why we're talking about
the way that it's going. Now, spring
is to educate.
And spring is one of those times of year. Spring is one of those times of year where we can talk about everybody's getting bottlenecked up. Cockroach Bay is a really popular place this time of year between recreational boating, charter fishing. It gets to a point where we start all colliding. We've got a number of new fishing guides along the South Shore. And it's just starting to get.
Some are really good. Some are not so much.
It's starting to get congested.
We got some old ones.
There's some old guys that are horrible.
Banana hammock keeps crowding me out.
But anyway, where I look at it, Rick, and we all talked about it, I will work as hard as I need to work for my business and for my clients. What's frustrating is I got to work harder because other people won't.
Yeah.
And day in and day out, I will man up to that, and I will work as hard as it takes to get the job done. And you get to that point, especially in a guide career, where you kind of get stuff figured out. You kind of get your routine. You kind of get what's going on. And then all of a sudden somebody throws a curveball, and you got to work a little harder because somebody else won't.
Yeah.
And that's where the frustration comes in. There's enough we got to worry about. And I'm talking guiding, guys. This is not recreational stuff. I'm talking guiding because we have a lot of pressure. When somebody starts paying you to go catch fish, rather than say, hey, man, let's go have a good time and bring a couple beers, it's a way different story and a way different stress level when you know that you've done your homework and you know what you can produce, and other things affect your ability to do that. That's where it comes in.
I do want to say, I don't have a clue who this guy was. I was fishing on some flats, and we were catching quite a bit of snook today, and I seen this flats boat come in. And he went in front, and he went way around. And he came back today, and I don't think it was a guide. And they set off for a distance, and we were catching fish. And finally, I realized that he was wanting to be where I was. Mm-hmm. And the guy, he could actually, I would have been okay if he say, hey, can I come next year? I'm pretty cool like that to a certain extent. It was a pretty popular spot, and
You like that in tournaments?
no, no. No, I will definitely pull the technicality drop.
Depends on how many fish he's got in a
If
live
you're
well.
within 50 yards and I'm on a school, I might have to. Yeah, the power poles might just go to anchor mode pretty fast. No, but he was very respectful. So we're sitting here talking about people being disrespectful, but
Right.
nobody ever talks about good stuff. So I appreciate that. The dude was in an Action Craft Flats boat, and I'm sure he caught fish after I left because I didn't beat him up too bad.
Well,
But
and you know what it boils all back to, and it's a lesson that most of us learned or should have been taught when we were younger, and it all boils down to treat people the way you want to be treated. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of the issues that happens on the water, this guy ran over this guy, and this guy cut this guy off, and this guy threw a net over this guy, 9 times out of 10, if the guy that did something wrong to another person has it done back to him, he's got twice as much problem as when he does it to somebody else. And I look at that all the time, and I try to treat people the way that I want to be treated. And if you just take that simple principle, you'll find that you'll stop yourself from doing certain things because you'll go, man, you know what? If somebody did that to me, I'd probably be mad about it, you know? And we don't stop to think about that because on the water, it's a free range. There ain't no street signs. There ain't no roads. There ain't no, cops sitting on every corner. And people sort of take that for granted and get out there and run loose because Deputy Dog ain't going to come run them down.
Right.
And at the end of the day,
I
that's what's going to fix it all for the most part.
Some of the problem out there is stress of picking up on time, stress of getting bait. You mix stress, you tie stress into timelines and trying to make money. I think people are going to get angry and do stuff that probably out of line. I think that's what we're dealing with. It's not a huge deal. I worry that was brought with the Florida guides about everybody's got bait now.
Yeah.
Well, what it is, a lot of people, like you said, are catching bait because they're better at it than the people that can't. Well, they can buy it. Now, is that the bait guy's fault? No. But it's a concern that I think they're going to have to look at when they start looking at numbers on fish.
Well, you look at supply and demand. There's a lot of people out there that want, and we tell them, you write reports, I write reports, Rick talk. We use white bait. Clients get on our boat, they expect a live well full of white bait. That's what we've marketed. That's sort of what West Coast style fishing is. Have a live well full of white bait for your clients. That's what we fish with. And so it's become a standard in our industry on the west coast of Florida to fish with white bait. Now there's cut bait and mullet, all the other things. But traditionally, when you show up to the boat, you're going to have a live well full of white bait when you go fishing with a fishing guide. That was 5 years ago. That was part of the value in going with a fishing guide. That was part of our value, was that we did some work. We figured out where the bait was. We figured out how to catch it and get back to the dock in a reasonable amount of time and take you fishing. So you start to dwindle some of that down, which I'm okay with. The bait thing is not a huge deal. Like I said, the biggest part of it is when it starts affecting how long it takes me and how hard I have to work, it starts to become frustrating.
It's hard to build
That's the point.
It's hard to build. We're going to take a little break. Let Travis cool down a little bit here. But it's hard to build It's hard to build a cushion in on your pickup time to 6 boats on one marker. And the bad thing is lately it's been a couple markers that's had bait.
That's
so
the biggest problem.
But,
that's the biggest
problem.
Well,
guys, we're going to take a little break. You got that thing wound up. You got that hamster running over there, Travis. We're going to take a little break. We get back. We'll talk a little more fishing. But right now, we're going to kick some commercials on. We'll be right back, guys.
Hey guys, welcome back. Tampa Fishing Outfitters Live Fishing Report. Myself, Captain Travis Yaeckel, Captain Jason Prieto, and Captain Rick here live from Tampa Fishing Outfitters in Tampa, bringing you the latest on what's going on Tampa Bay, guys. And we were talking a little bit about bait situation. We are going to completely turn that off.
Boom.
and let's talk a
Down.
little bit about fishing.
What about cast nets?
Cast nets off,
Bait off.
bait off.
Throwing?
Go to a bait boat or
Cast
throw
net?
a cast net. I don't care what you do, but
I'm
do
just
it
throwing
respectfully
jigs over
and,
here, Travis.
everything will be cool. I tell you what, guys, the one thing that we haven't talked about in a long time, and I'm getting fired up about it because I'm ready to get out of the backcountry, is the tarpon are starting to roll, baby. I've seen a few. Danny saw a few. I don't know
I've seen some juveniles
the Beach
roll.
Boys if they're
this
out there
week.
seeing them yet. I hadn't been out that way, but we are starting to get and see some tarpon, guys, which is exciting. I got a number of trips booked this year, so we're looking forward to it. If anybody's been out tarpon fishing or seen any tarpon, post and let us know.
I can tell you who's been tarpon fishing.
Did that guy from that group event get with you?
Not yet, but
Because I told him to see you about tarpon fishing.
yeah, he hadn't called me yet, but I expect a call. He was a real nice guy. So, Manny's got something. He says red tide in Upper Tampa Bay.
That's good to know. There's always red tide somewhere.
You know, it seems like it now. Where are you talking about, Manny? Because I fished a
Be
corporate
specific.
event out of Gandy, and I fished north of the Gandy and then north of the Courtney Campbell, and all those areas. I had a live well full of whitebait, and I never lost a bait. Caught fish, didn't really see any dead fish or anything. So I'm not sure where you're seeing red tide or when the bloom sort of took place, but I know that I guess it would be the west side of Upper Tampa Bay, closer to the St. Pete side over there. Typically is where most of that dirty and nasty water gets. I don't know if that's the area that he's talking about, but I didn't see anything up that way. We caught, like I said, we caught several. We caught a bunch of snook up that way, and a handful of redfish. So Felipe Park. But anyway, hopefully that doesn't continue.
Where's
The
that
bad
at?
thing is, we were just talking about it
what I
on
was thinking.
the
Where's
way
Felipe
over.
Park at?
Where's
Is
Felipe Park?
I don't know where Felipe Park is. I think that's up by Bayside, the
I'm glad
Bayside
you said
Bridge.
that, Rick. I was like, I don't even
I
know
think
what
that's up there by
one.
the Bayside Bridge, if
Oh.
I'm not mistaken. Manny, where's Felipe Park? But anyway,
Charlie, I'm jealous, man. The Glades just look like an awesome place.
the Glades, man. Well, they've had fish down that way for quite a while, hadn't you, Charlie? I know the Naples area, Estero, has had some tarpon down that way for a little bit. But
Speaking of Charlie, just seeing Charlie. Charlie, anybody that listens to the show, he's our president for the FGA. Does a heck of a job. Guys, we're going to be having sometime in a few months for the guides out there. We're going to be having a little get together, evening style, probably free dinner, burgers and stuff like that for the FGA coming up. We're gonna have some awards. We're gonna start mixing up a little bit on our yearly meeting to get people to be able to go. So start looking for that. Probably September-ish, I'm thinking, maybe August, which will sneak up on us. We're already in April, which is crazy. But that should be right around the corner for the FGA. We'll have a nice little evening meeting and
Phil,
some awards.
Pura vida, Phil. We're glad you guys got some tarpon. They keep tarpon there. I'd say
Year round,
most of the year, especially up in the rivers up in there. They get a lot of juvenile.
Well, I see Clay just joined us. Clay was a heck of a tarpon guide when he was here. I'm kind of looking forward to tarpon
He's
season.
catching bluegills now.
Yeah, he's catching bluegills. Kind of looking forward to tarpon season. Part of me is, and part of me is just like, It's the last few years. It's kind of been like our bait situation, more aggravating than fun. When you're every day on it. So I like it when it's good. When you get them good days, it's nice. But man, I'm trying to really stay away from the weekends. It's tough on the weekends for tarpon, on the beaches at least. And I enjoyed last year fishing the kind of what I call the off season, the later season for tarpon. I caught a lot of juvenile tarpon, which were fun. They're a little bit or a lot easier, really. You can kind of mix it with your flat strips easier. Didn't do a whole lot of cut bait mess,
I hate that.
I mean, it's not that bad, but yeah, it does kind of. It's not that good either. But man, if you've never caught a tarpon though, that is something to
Everybody needs to catch one.
at least. It's fun, if you can get away from the weekends and the crowds. Actually, the weekdays are almost as bad sometimes.
A lot of it's the area too.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can get some in the bay, but I'm talking mostly the beaches are gotten crowded. But there's still a lot of fish out there to be had, and I don't want to talk anybody out of it. It's just it's gotten to be crowded out there, kind of like our bait situation. But
well, Debbie Downer, I'm excited. I'm ready. Can
I
you
didn't
see,
say I
can you
was.
see
I
it?
said part of me was.
Can you see
I can
it?
see it. I can see it. I can see the excitement.
I tell you, one of the coolest things about
I
tarpon
just like
fishing to me,
catching fish.
I like catching big fish. I like putting clients on big fish. I don't care if they're 6-foot blacktip sharks or 9-foot nurse sharks or, you know.
Yeah, that being
We'll
said,
catch some big, Goliath groupers out there. I've had cobias come up and slide by and stick 40-pound cobias.
it's
I
different.
just like that different.
It's different.
Just different. And then, the nice thing about, some of the areas and the way the style that I like to tarpon fish, you do the tarpon thing for a little bit. You start snapper fishing for a couple hours. You do that. Tide picks back up, and you start tarpon fishing again. And so for me, it's just a nice break. There's really no other time other than tarpon fishing and mackerel fishing that we get away from our normal grind, that we get away from, Cockroach Bay and Joe's Island, blah, blah, blah. We fish that kind of stuff all throughout the year except for during the summertime and tarpon season. And mainly because the water gets real hot. The fish don't like to chew, past 10 o'clock in the morning till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The other thing that I did want to say is this summer I'm planning on running a lot more nighttime snook trips. I've got several of my clients, some of my older clients actually, that have requested it over the years, and I've got a handful of them that would like to go out and do some dock light fishing. We've got some good places in the river in Apollo Beach that, being that my boat's sitting there at Little Harbor ready to go, we can slide out and go north or south and really do some good nighttime fishing. So I'm looking forward to doing some of that stuff. And if anybody out there wants to do some nighttime fishing, when we give me a call, we'll go ahead and blast our numbers. If we're all full-time fishing guides, myself, Captain Travis, is 813-830-3474. Or you can visit my website at www.fishbyinstinct.com. And yes, Manny, I do some Goliath grouper stuff on request.
Yeah, 813-727-9890, steadyactionfishingcharters.com.
601-2900.
That is an easy number.
813-601-2900.
Your number is the one.
Don't have a website, so don't even waste your time.
You knew what I was going to say next, right? Rick, what's your website?
www. I ain't got crap.
You just find me on. You can just find me on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can just find me on Facebook.
Just look up one of Travis's posts on Facebook, and I'll be chirping in on that one.
Yeah. I'll be lighting the fire, and so will Rick.
John, that's a good point, buddy. And Jason's been doing some hog fishing. I've done a little bit of hog fishing. The biggest problem with the hogs, guys, especially for charters, is there's a fine line between being legal and not being legal.
I don't do hog fishing for charters. I'll tell you right now.
And so when those fish get inside 9 miles, if there's fish inside 9 miles, you're perfectly good with it. The second you cross that 9-mile mark, you're into federal waters, and you're going to need a federal reef permit, which
as a charter captain,
90% of inshore fishing guides do not own a federal reef permit. So we are out when it comes to anything beyond 9 miles.
Yeah, and I hear they're starting to enforce that. I think it's a bunch of baloney, the permits, but it's the law. And if I go out there and I hog fish and I don't have the correct credentials, I'm no better than the guy that guides without a captain's license
100%.
in my eyes. And I don't think that's right for the guys that are paying to play. Do I think it's right to pay that kind of money? No, but it's the law. Do I think it's right that, a guy sits in front of a neighborhood and clocks you at 20 and a 15? No, but you broke the law and he caught you, so you got to pay. My point being, you got to pay the consequences.
You'd feel better about that if when your kids didn't get run over.
If he gets run over at 20, 15, you know where I'm going with that. That was
the
just
whole
an
neighborhood
example.
thing is why I'm.
I'm just saying, like, it's the
I
law.
sorta
Like,
missed it
I
all.
don't have to agree with it.
Kind of sleeping over here. Honestly, I'm a little sunburnt. I'm a little tired. I literally walked off the boat.
If you
and
look at that
I
screen,
actually still have my buff on. I didn't even realize that.
Look at the screen. When you had your hat down, you look black.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Travis ain't using no sunscreen.
Dude, I put zinc on every morning. It's actually the hat. See, I got a little white in there, but
the
Now,
flat
you
bill.
need to use some of my sunscreen because you won't look like that.
dude, I need a tower with a sunshade.
Nah.
man.
Tide.
Don't
Wait
do
a
it.
Had a good time,
The,
Tide.
the
Thanks
sun ain't
for
that bad in
booking
Georgia,
with us,
Rick. The
man.
sun ain't that bad on the farm in
Yeah,
Georgia,
no,
buddy.
it wasn't bad.
Wait till you get
It
back on the
rained-
boat.
It rained all day on me yesterday.
But the hogfish from a recreation, I go out there and go with a couple buddies, Ty and Jeff, and we'll go out there and do some hogfish a couple times a year. And the other reason I
We've
don't really
heard
want
about
to
that,
charter.
haven't we?
Oh, I
Yeah.
heard about it.
We've
Yeah,
heard about the
yeah,
hog
yeah,
fishing
yeah.
trip.
Actually, I
Yeah.
invited Travis,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
haven't. You're on the next
I think
trip.
I had to work that
Yeah.
day.
No,
Yeah.
you didn't.
I
You
think I had to
you
work.
made some dumb excuse that wasn't even good.
Or maybe I had to watch my daughter.
No,
Yeah,
it
I
wasn't
keep-
nothing like that.
We've heard
It
about
probably
it.
was.
No, it wasn't.
It probably
had
was.
I want to go
nothing.
on the trip that Travis goes on.
Yeah.
He's not going to
The
go.
zero trip.
But the hogfish for me is it's like fun fishing. It's fun for me. So the other thing is I don't want to really turn into work. I run a single engine boat, so me running way out there on trips,
It's not
it's
cost
just
effective
not-
for us, really.
No, I'd have to charge. I wouldn't charge any less than the offshore guys do, because they have to charge that much. They put a ton of hours, a ton of fuel. Half of them have a mate, which I wouldn't have a mate, but it's very expensive. I like to go out there for fun and catch hogfish 2-3 times a year is what I do it. Maybe 4. I have not went out there more than 3 times in a year, so it's a fun trip. Hogs are
You've
fun.
been doing that, what, 3 years?
Yeah, I'm not even a hogfish expert. My buddy's the one that turned me on to it, and I went out there and
9 times, and I haven't got an invite.
9 times? You been out there 9 times?
Well,
No, I
3
don't.
times
You ain't
a
been out
year.
there
He
nine.
No, I
said
haven't
3
even been out
times
there.
a year.
I was
been
saying
doing it
max.
3 years.
I was going overestimated.
6 times
That's
anyway.
9.
So
Simple, fuzzy
so,
math.
So, I mean, we could say 6 times for sure.
We gotta
Travis,
ask
you are
Jeff.
right.
If you want a real answer, Jeff, I know he's watching somewhere.
Yeah.
Jeff, get your boy.
No, Jeff's
round,
not on Facebook.
round
Ty-
your boy
Ty's
up.
his buddy.
round your boy up.
And I'm an inshore fisherman, man. That's what I like
I
to
don't
do.
want
That's
you to
what.
take me inshore fishing. I can do that. I want you to take me offshore.
Well, we'll have to do it.
Well, you said
I'll
that
tell
2
you
years
what.
ago.
Last year we went out. Me and Cuz went out. He come up for the day, and I had the day off, and we went out and played on some Swiss cheese bottom out there, about 7 miles out, and got on some stuff and marked some really good bottom. We ended up catching a handful of really nice grouper, which I was surprised. We got in some real nice grouper, some nice gags. Let several go. Took a couple back, kicked the sides off of them, but good trip. Good time getting out there. I tell you, I've really enjoyed having the Canyon Bay for some of that stuff and these bigger
Good boat.
boats.
Yeah, it's
To
good
be able
boat.
to get out there, with that 22-foot boat that I was running, you really had to.
Triton.
Well, you really
Don't refer
you-
to it as a 22-foot boat. What does he refer to it as? The Triton.
Triton.
It is.
How many
The,
times have I heard about
it's the Triton.
The Triton.
Man. It's the Triton.
right now?
What is it? Remember the Tritons.
Yeah,
But
the Triton is now turned into a palm tree.
it's no, it's not quite palm tree yet, but it's there. But
Are you going to sell that thing?
Guys, somebody please.
Are we
He's
gonna
got a
roast?
22. It's a
Are we
roast.
gonna roast Travis tonight?
Yeah.
Or are we
No,
gonna
it's not
talk about
Travis
something
roasting.
Guys,
useful?
he's
Travis
got a
has
22
nice
foot.
Triton, 22-foot.
After all you do is talk shit,
It's
and
got
he
a
says
tower.
this looks like a palm tree.
It's got a tower, but it don't have the controls up there.
It's more for
It's
sightseeing.
basically just a platform, but
Yeah.
the boat is very fishable. Had a lot of fish caught in that boat. Still got
love
room
it.
for
I
more.
He's
love
gonna.
it.
So we're gonna sell it
Good
for him.
boat.
40 grand,
Your wife would be
How much you
so.
really selling it for?
45.
We trying to help you here.
Yeah, I know. Come on,
I
you're
don't
not
know.
making this.
I'm probably gonna list a boat for about 18.
And it has a custom leaning post
I mean,
in it.
It's
and
got
that's where
fly-by-wire controls, power pole, jack plate, Lowrance touch with
yeah.
structure
18,
scan. I mean,
that's his starting
it's
price.
got
So there's-
it's
he's-
got
there's
it's
room
got
to
it's
work.
got all the stuff on it. But yeah, if you're interested in 22-foot
See,
bay
your
boat,
wife is thanking us right now.
give me a call. We'll see if we can get
See?
it.
Kathy, we know how much your procrastinator
Kathy,
he
we're
is.
trying. We're trying to work with him.
I mean, it's right
So-
next to the palm tree. It might cut you down the big palm he's got in his yard too, if you buy the boat. He's got some beautiful palms in his yard. But I tell you what, I'm going to start doing a little bit earlier this year. If this wind would lay down, is I'm going to start doing some get on my grouper stuff. I went out there last week and it wasn't real good, but my buddy Jeff
It's a
went
good
out on
way
my
to get away
numbers.
from everybody for sure.
17-pound gag out there in the bay, 24 foot of water. So I went out there. We got a 24, and I didn't catch what I wanted, but I kept I was trying to hit it on the end of the tide, but I kept hitting it on slack tide, and we were on quarter moon tide, so it was taking forever to roll. So we didn't get the 20K for the palms.
We looked them up, dude. The palm trees I got in my front yard are worth more money than half the stuff I own. It's nuts.
So Rick, I guess we need to get digging about
Hey,
late tonight.
So how much for the boat and one palm?
Yeah, you got to cut a deal for a
we
combo.
can work a deal. Give me a call.
You got to pull the palm tree
We're
out
gonna
though.
bundle- we're gonna
That palm
bundle this
tree.
deal.
Let me tell you what, that palm tree's rooted,
And
buddy.
if you come
About
over there,
30 foot tall.
watch out for the ditch at night.
Watch
Ditch
out
will
for the
get you.
ditch.
I don't
Ditch
care how
will get
big
you.
your truck
That
is.
thing's a truck eater.
Maybe that's why your neighbor's got that tall truck. He probably went in that ditch one night and he said, "I'm gonna build something that I ain't getting stuck."
Good
ain't
question
getting
there.
stuck in it.
We ought to hit on that. What are some of your favorite lures and jigs for flats fishing since bait isn't plentiful yet? Take it away, boys. 313 gold flake.
Travis is a DOA
Hey.
gold. Is it gold 313? Did he hit it?
I don't, y'all go first. So I don't even have to say anything.
The
Apparently.
Z-Man, I'll give you the Houdini. Houdini just won me about 30 grand, so I'm not. Z-Man, Paddle Tail, Paddle Z, Houdini. I like the color. Pearl White. What other colors do I like? There's a motor oil color that I like. I like natural colors. It's got to look like something in the water for me. And I know they've got the electric chicken or whatever it is, and people catch fish on it, but it just throws me off. But any of the paddle tail baits, I like. It doesn't have to be a Z-Man if you're a gulp guy. I tell you what I haven't done well on, and I know it works, is artificial shrimp. I haven't caught much on them.
Artificial shrimp,
Yeah, a lot of
like
people-
hard plastic bite.
Just like a
baits?
DOA shrimp or
Yeah,
a
we
Z.
use those. I never.
I look
the
at it, I
gulps
go,
I've used, but not,
Gulp, yeah.
I kind of look at it, I go, this thing has zero movement. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll tell you another good bait too is the Little Johns. They got good darting action. They don't look like they would. They have a real good dart to them. And you can go weedless or with a regular jig head. One thing that I've recommend too is I used to use a lot of 1/8 ounce jig heads, and I went to quarters a lot, and it seems like I do a little bit better with the quarters. You get a little bit on a faster jig if you're going through grass. Seems like it works a little better than the lighter ones.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of weighted weedless hooks,
Hey Ken.
especially this time
Ken.
of year.
Hey Ken. What's happening, Ken?
That's what happens. You miss a week, man. They think you're done.
You're out.
You're cut.
We were talking,
I can hear you.
and I don't know who. We'll scroll down here. I don't know who mentioned it or asked us a question about. Looks like Debbie. I tell you one thing that's going to affect artificial, especially, from I would say Cockroach Bay all the way down to Port Manatee right now on that grass flat, is the snot grass. I don't know what
Yes.
the technical
Use
name
something-
for it is,
something
but
weedless.
Does anybody know the technical name for the snot grass?
I don't know what
Gorilla
the
snot's what we call it.
Yeah, but that's not the technical. I mean, when the scientists talk about that kind of grass, I don't think they call it gorilla
Well,
snot.
it may not, but
well
That's what we call it, Ruskin.
it's definitely old monkey snot. But
Monkey snot.
I tell you what though, in the last week, man, just in the last week, it popped up, and I mean
we're good, Ken. I was only teasing.
it's gnarly, man. When you get to an area and you can't hardly live bait,
Yeah.
odds of throwing artificial
Yeah.
lures
Yeah.
sort of make it complicated. I don't care if you've got a weedless or what.
And what
There
Ken
ain't
said,
nothing coming through that stuff sitting on the surface.
And what Ken said, 16 ounce. That's light, so you'll get
Super
You're
light.
still going to get some.
Right.
You probably need to have lighter line. You're
Dave?
still going to get some grass and some debris on it, but you get less with the
And
lighter.
it depends on depth. I always look at when I start picking it, and I don't do a whole lot of artificial charters. Most of us don't. But when I do have a box in the boat,
You keep having issues like you're having.
yeah, I'll just roll it right over, dude.
If he don't start throwing artificials, he might be in the hospital for stress.
I'm telling you. But anyhow, so I keep a box, and I've got I use the hookup lures is the jig head that I like to use. But I've got them from, like you said, 16th all the way up to I've even got half-ounce jigs for some channel fishing.
Ty, great minds think alike, buddy.
But the thing that I always look at when picking my weight is depth and what am I fishing again? What am I fishing? Am I fishing in weeds? Am I fishing in sand? So on and so forth. And more often than not, a quarter ounce or 1/8 ounce is where I'm sitting.
Really?
And that question came from Debbie Lamb. I know Debbie and have known Debbie for 40 years, and can probably outfish.
Debbie, I'm so sorry.
90% of everybody in Tampa Bay. She should actually be giving us comments. What
She should
uses.
be given an award to
She
hang out
should
with
be-
you for 40 years.
She don't hang out with me,
Even knowing you for 40 years.
but she ought to tell us what she's been using, because her and her husband Randy, they catch a lot of fish.
Man, 40 years? That's more
I've
impressive.
known her longer than you are old.
I'm 40. I was just born. I'm getting old, Rick. Mickey, are you, is that for real? Black Matt L?
That's a pretty
Algae?
solid answer to just be
Yeah, I know.
winging it.
I figured it'd be a longer. That's pretty
I
basic.
thought it would be unpronounceable.
I tell you
Yeah,
what,
like
that makes sense because we look at it as grass, and what we were talking about with my clients yesterday when we were fishing this area, he goes, "Well, where does it come from?" And I said, "I don't know because I never see it
I never
on
call
the
it
bottom."
grass.
Well, no, but
Gorilla snot.
well, whatever. I never see the gorillas. Have you seen the gorillas? To be snotting around? There's one I know of. There is a gorilla around town. He drives a yellow boat, but but it makes sense that it grows on the surface. And if it's an algae, then it's a bloom.
I
that's grown
actually-
somewhere.
Google. Oh, see, Mickey, I was about to give you a bunch more credit. I guess I had Google too. I got looked it up. I'm just tired. But one thing about the funny thing you're talking about the gorilla snot, and your customer saying something today. I was actually laughing because my customer's like, "Can we pull this off?" I said, "Nah, just chuck it out there. We're using that thing like a split shot." And they were
Dude.
eating it. It was on the knot on the leader.
Just
And
let
that
it
thing was
rip.
like, and then we were catching fish on it. And I was like, just leave it on there. I was like, because it gets on your
It's
boat,
nasty,
and then
when
it dries.
Yeah.
Oh
it's like,
my god!
It's like
I'm
paint,
like, nah,
dude.
just leave it on there. Use it like a split shot.
I know.
That sucker was end over end like a field goal.
Okay, here we go. Science name.
Oh, see, I told you it was something we couldn't pronounce.
Ling Bia.
That other
Yeah.
name was way too simple. That's some. That was the scientist in Ruskin that thought about that.
Lingbia.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Well, rock on.
Don't forget Procure. Maybe that's why we're having so much snotgrass. Everybody's using Procure.
It's a fertilizer.
The problem I have with Procure, and maybe it's not a problem. So if you take, and you guys let me know your opinion on this. So the Procure is typically a dark.
I don't do that very often.
Jesus.
Put a little Procure.
So it's a dark.
No, give
It's
my opinion.
darker. So like if you put it on a pearl white bait,
Depends on which one you get.
then I'm
too.
like, well, this now I'm taking the bait and it looks just weird. It's got stuff smeared all over that you can see. So you think the fish can see that?
Well, a lot of times, like,
Maybe their sense of smell overrides their sense of sight when it comes to eating.
So if it's the fat fish that's just will eat anything, then you're good. But if
Probably.
you're the picky fish that don't,
Would you eat a cookie more if you smelt it or if you just saw it?
him, dude, he can hear them. He's got the thirst cookies.
I'm just saying. I'm trying to
I'm-
learn
I'm-
on our show here. I mean,
That's a good
So your
question.
point, so your real the controversy here is that you feel like if you put Procure on your white bait, that it's no longer a white bait.
right?
Okay, so we're gonna need some white Procure.
Yeah. I mean, you sent guys. Come on. I mean, when you're talking artificials, you're getting pretty technical. You're trying to trick a fish into thinking that it's a real bait, right?
Right there, Ken just told you what to do.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. Is you can use flukes
Yeah. No, I did that.
and put it in the pocket of
Yeah,
a fluke
I've done that. No,
or
I've done
swim
that.
bait and do it that way.
I just did that on the last tournament. I'm not gonna act like I've done that forever. But I was sitting there trying to goop one of my baits up. I was like, check this little pocket out, and I filled it up.
I tell you another one that it works good for, and that we've noticed not so much in Florida. I mean, I do use it, but on a gold spoon, when you get fish that are bumping the spoon, especially redfish, well, they'll come up and hammer the spoon or hit it and knock it, but not take it or get up behind it and follow it. Because with a gold spoon, a lot of times you're working that bait a little bit faster, and you'll see that a lot of times with a gold spoon, you'll get a follower and not a taker, where that fish will come up, beeline up to it, and a lot of times you don't know what to do, or you go faster, slower, drop it or whatever. And I've noticed that on a spoon, it seems like I get more takers than lookers or followers especially with redfish, when you take in that pocket of that gold spoon, because I like using the Johnson Sprite weedless spoons and just taking a fingerful of that stuff and mashing it inside the gold spoon. I feel like that's a little productive on that. So single hook on the gold spoon. The weedless gold spoons are the ones I like. And
yeah, don't drag a treble one on.
you know, there's several different ways to rig a gold spoon, but we'll go into that maybe on the next show. But
We're at an hour and a minute.
we are at an hour and a
We're
minute.
gonna wrap this deal up for the simple fact that Travis is tired. And we
spent too
stressed
much
him
time.
out.
We spent too much
I am
time.
not stressed out.
We didn't.
I am perfectly fine. I will get up in the morning. I will go catch bait, and I will run my charters and be just fine.
Well, guys, it's been a great show. We appreciate you tuning in and letting us vent a little bit. But I hope you learned something from the show.
Thanks for spending some time with
Thanks
us.
for spending some time with us, guys. We know your schedules are busy like ours, and we enjoy actually talking fishing y'alls. But same place, same time next week. Tight lines.
Out.